Hello to my fellow KW stakeholders. Of course, it's Aaron Kaufman, self-titled Chief Stakeholder Evangelist out of Atlanta, Georgia, and super excited to be bringing you another edition of the My 4 KW story. As many of you know, the owners of our North American market centers have profit shared back to our associates, almost $2 billion. Crazy stat. Is less than 30% of our associates even participate in it. So we've developed this interview series to really pick the minds of some of our most purposeful, most passionate KW associates who are thinking and acting like stakeholders and being purposeful about profit share. And there is very few people in this company as purposeful and as passionate about KW profit share as my good friend, Billy Linkwald from Atlanta, Georgia. How you doing, brother?
Doing great. Good morning. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, man. Super excited to talk to you. You and I go way back. I mean, we practically live now about 100 yards from each other.
Yeah, we should do this on my front porch or something.
Yeah, we should. We should, man. But you and I go way back. And the reason we go way back is, you've attended my class a bunch. I always see you in my class with a recruit or someone that has just joined KW in your downline. And over the years, you and I have developed a great relationship, but we have really kind of held each other accountable and been purposeful about building our downline. So I want people to understand who you are, how you got here, what you've been able to accomplish, what keeps you going. So Billy, catch everybody up on who you are, how you joined KW, who you selected as your sponsor, and then we'll just kind of go from there. All right?
All right, perfect. So again, thanks for having me today. So I got my license in middle of 2005. I was part-time, very part-time at that time, and didn't really get going until kind of the end of 2006. What ended up happening was I was waiting tables, and
very familiar with
it just
that
didn't work out. And I have waited a lot of tables, and I didn't enjoy doing it, and I needed a reason to stop and to start something new. And I kind of found real estate, and the reason why real estate was attractive to me is the same reason it's attractive to everyone, right? Which is I wanted more control over my time, and I wanted more control over my income. Really, at that time, it was more income. I didn't even really understand the whole leverage time management thing. So at that time, it was really more, having control over my income. I joined a local company. It was a Better Homes and Gardens franchise. That's what it is now. At the time, it was a GMAC franchise. Metro Brokers is the name. And, I only interviewed two companies, that one and a small boutique. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I came to Metro Brokers and kind of dragged my feet a little bit. I didn't really understand what to do each day. I didn't understand how important a database was. There's a lot of things that I needed help with. But eventually I just continued to do what they said to do, right? Talk to people, make promises, execute on the promises, be in integrity, all this stuff, learn the market. And ultimately after a couple of years, and of course during the shift, that's where I grew my business. I started to become what I'll say kind of like the darling of the relocation department. I was getting a lot of relocation leads. I was getting a lot of internet leads, click-throughs from their website. And the truth is I was having fun and I was doing well. After a couple of years, this is kind of one of my defining moments, is I was at a awards banquet at the beginning of 2010. And so we were celebrating the awards for 2009. And I received a reward that day that was called Summit Club Century. And that was $3 million in sales and $100,000 in GCI or more. Okay, I got that. At the time, there was about 2,500 agents. That's about what they have now too. So 2,500 agents, I counted I was one of 67 agents that got it. So I looked around and I said, wow, I'm in the top 2%. I felt like I was just getting started.
Yeah.
Right. And I know this may not be perfectly true, but this is my perception, is I looked around and the only people there weren't that many people making more money than me. And it's not all about money, obviously, but the people that were my impression was that they were willing to spend even less time at home than I was, right?
Yeah.
They were willing to work even longer hours than I was. And no one was using technology to high level. No one was growing a team. Nobody was hopping on a plane to get trained. Nobody was really having high level business type conversations. And I didn't really know that's what I was missing, but I knew I wasn't in the right spot.
Yeah.
The way I came to KW actually was I was working one of those referrals. I was actually working a referral from a high up person at Metro Brokers, and I brought the buyer to this listing in Vinings, and the listing agent at the time, she was actually with Remax, but the day after the closing, she came to KW. And the day after that, she called, probably that day actually, she called and she says, you need to be here. So that was in like February or March of 2010.
And let me stop you for a second, Billy. So,
yeah.
I mean, this was an agent that you had done previous transactions with, or was this
No.
the first transaction? So,
first transaction.
So you must have had a fairly good relationship transaction process with her for you to even receive, for her to even think about you, to invite you to KW, but for you to even consider even looking at KW. I mean, you only did one deal with this agent. You didn't really have a relationship with her, correct?
That's correct. I mean, the thing is, when you do a good job in the transaction and you're respectful of the other side and you're representing your client well, it opens the door to make a professional relationship.
Absolutely.
So she didn't have a relationship with me in any way at that time.
Was she a higher producing agent than you at the time, or?
No? Yeah, probably just a little bit, not by much.
Yeah.
But that didn't have anything to do with it for me. This was really the first time that somebody like looked at my activities.
Yeah.
And was like, hey, are you at a place where you are? Like, are you the smartest guy in the room over there? So I think she was just doing what we're all taught to do, right? Which is just do a great transaction, respect the other side, and expose them to, or learn more about their business and expose them to opportunities that are available, right? So that's what she did. And so that was the beginning of 2010, actually. And so she connected me with the team leader, Denise Buchanan in Roswell. And that started kind of the 9 or 10 month courtship of analyzing my business and doing the DISC assessment and doing the DISC assessment with my wife, and really looking at the nitty gritty of my business. And one thing that was missing was I was being handed a lot of leads, right? And a lot of pretty good leads, and I didn't really realize the importance of being able to control the flow of the leads. They were keeping me really busy, but they were keeping me really busy with leads that I got paid 50% on.
Exactly.
Right, and didn't count towards my cap, and had a sliding scale transaction fee and all these things, right? So it's not that I was. I mean, first of all, I want to say I'm very grateful for everything I learned there, and I'm grateful for the agents and the leaders that I got a chance to mingle with. However, the bird was ready to leave the nest.
Yeah.
Right. And I was feeling that for a while. Ultimately, Denise was kind enough to invite me to Mega Camp. I resisted a tiny bit. I told her straight up front, I'm not coming to KW. I'll take your trip. I'll take this, couple $1,000 offer, but I'm not coming to KW. Right. And interestingly enough, it must have been part of, a big recruiting thing, because we had a big party that weekend, and there was a lot of Metro Brokers agents there.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. And I thought I was going in secret, but it turns out there was a lot of other people. Turns out none of them actually came to KW, except for me, though.
Interesting.
So, when I came to Mega Camp, that was really the first time that I had seen literally thousands of people who were experiencing the same thing I was experiencing, right? Kind of recovering from the shift and trying to find the people that were serious and trying to, do business the right way and try to be on the listing side and all of these things. So I came to KW about 3 weeks after I got back from Mega Camp.
Awesome.
During this time, my wife was pretty involved in my business at the time. She's a professional photographer, just like your wife, which is kind of interesting. So she was taking all the pictures and she was helping me with some admin stuff, and she was involved. So ultimately, there was a series of offers, and the offers got a little bit better every time, and I kept resisting, not because I wanted a better offer necessarily. I just, I was comfortable.
Yeah,
I was comfortable.
Totally.
And so ultimately I came to KW. The way that it ended up working out was I was able to name my wife as my sponsor, and my wife named the agent who was the listing agent out of their home. Her name is Megan Dwyer. And I got to tell you, one thing that you said a long time ago to me really resonated. You said something about how you haven't really talked to your sponsor in a long time. And but you said something really cool after that, which is, it's okay, because she changed my life.
Yeah, I'm the grateful one, right?
I'm forever grateful for Megan having the courage, or the whatever you want to call it, to say, hey, you ought to check this thing out. I'm young. I mean, I was young at the time, and I needed a push, quite frankly, and I needed to be introduced to somebody or multiple people, OPs and other ALC members and all this stuff that really had great experience that could kind of guide me on how to build my sales business. So to make it nice and simple, I came to KW. My wife is my sponsor. Megan Dwyer was the one that she ultimately named, and off I went.
If I can ask a question, Billy, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I love that you bring that up, right? About your sponsor. Now, let me dive a little bit deeper into that.
Just before you go there, Megan has been wonderful.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's great.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, I want to just take this moment for us to kind of, frame where you're going with that conversation, because what makes profit share at KW so amazing is that it was always designed to be purely passive, right? Yeah. And it's one of the ways that we're inherently different than a rev share company, where it's actually your job to train and nurture these agents, right? So it's not passive; it's more of a residual thing. So,
and you're conducting all the interviews.
I haven't heard from. Go ahead. Yeah.
And you're conducting all the interviews.
Oh,
you're doing all.
Absolutely. So I guess the first question I have is: Did Megan try to sell you on her mentorship or sponsor? I mean, she never in any way, like my sponsor never even mentioned anything about, hey, I'm going to be here for you or anything like that. She introduced me to KW. So Megan did not set any kind of expectation, right? She was just trying to help you. And that, even though she's been good to you and nice to you, you didn't come into KW thinking, okay, she's my mentor, or she has a duty to me. And when I hear people talk about, hey, my sponsor doesn't do anything for me, I'm like, look, they don't owe you anything, right? They earn every cent they make in profit share by introducing you to the best real estate company. And I think when people try to tether sponsorship and mentorship together, they're actually treating us like a rev share company, and they're kind of diluting our model. So I love that you bring that up, because I think for us, what makes KW such a higher evolved company is that we're not just vested in the success of the agents in our downline. We're actually vested in the success of every agent in our downline's market centers too. And I know that's a big part of your experience at KW, being on the ALC and really being somebody that takes that on his shoulders, because you want to grow this company, not just the people in your downline. So sorry to interrupt.
Right. I mean, I'm naturally, I like to think that I'm naturally a sharer. Like, I've got no secrets. I'm an open book. I'll tell you where I've succeeded. I'll tell you where I've failed. I'll tell you where I've spent good money. I'll tell you where I've spent bad money. Yeah. Right. Megan kind of set the standard, so to speak. I didn't need a ton of help, to be honest, but she was always available. But I didn't look at her as the person that was going to be the person that made or broke my experience at KW.
Well, you had everything you ever needed, right? That you even knew existed at KW, right?
That's a good point. Yeah. The analogy that I like to use is the profit share is about the owner rewarding the person, or the investor rewarding the person that brought the candidate or the agent to the front door.
Exactly.
Okay. Once they walk through the door, their responsibility is over.
Yep.
Right now, but it's like leverage upon leverage, because now I can send somebody to a market center in Fort Myers, and I know that there's a team there, right? There's a person at the front. There's a whole leadership team. You got assistant team leaders, coaches, brokers, compliance people, ALC members, top agents. So they don't have to rely on, they don't have to rely on me to teach them how to sell homes. Exactly. They get to rely on me for a person that's just calling every once in a while and checking in. And even though I don't have to do that, I do that because I want them to win.
Well, it's smart business, right? It's smart business. I mean, there's a reason you tell everybody you bring to KW, even when I'm outside of Atlanta teaching, and because I know, we'll talk a little bit about how you built your downline around the company. Yeah. But whenever I'm in a town where you got somebody in your downline, usually I get a message from you that says, what time are you teaching? I have somebody in my downline I want to make sure goes to your class. And I think, look, and people don't understand that. That's been for the last 10 years, Billy. Like literally every time I'm on the road, Billy sends me a message asking me to confirm my time because you got somebody there. And I just think that intentionality of looking at profit share like a business. And look, going back to what you said, Billy, look, I'm a great sponsor for the agents in my, that I've sponsored at KW that seek me out. Okay. But my 20% is not asking them, do they need my help? Okay, my 20% is adding more people to KW. And look, every time somebody joins KW, I'm like, look, as your sponsor, I am vested in your success and I will always be here to help you. Obviously, my passion is growing KW and building wealth through profit share. But if you ever want to get purposeful about it, I'll be your profit share sugar daddy, right? And
that's exactly right. Like I'm looking at my report right now. And it shows me obviously all the people that have had sales. Yeah. But one of the things I look at the most is my second level and down.
Exactly.
Because when I've got people in my downline that are receiving checks, I got somebody in my downline that's probably made about $600-700 total in profit share in her whole career, and she made almost $2,500 last month because she has two people that just capped.
Exactly.
Right. And I sent her a message. Hey, how'd that go? What was that like? That's right. Awesome. So it's I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention when somebody brings their first recruit in. I'm paying attention when they have their first sale. I'm paying attention when they have their first check, profit share check. And I think that like you always say, it's creating a community.
Exactly.
I'm sure we'll get to this later, but I've really embraced that virtual market center idea.
Yeah.
Right. And I've had so many different ways of thinking about real estate. Or profit share. One of the very first things I was thinking was, I'm going to recruit all these people from across the country, and they're going to be my spokes, basically, for an expansion team.
Exactly. Or a referral network. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And that didn't really work out so well. And I'll tell you the reason why is because I don't think you give opportunities to people that are in your downline because they're in the downline.
Obviously.
Right. I think you go and find the best person you can find. If they happen to be in the downline, so be it.
Well, and Billy, you know that you and I have built our downlines. I know you've done a lot of recruiting relationship wise here in Atlanta, but around the company, it's been predominantly online or calling off of lists, correct, for you?
Yeah. Yep.
And most of the people outside of Atlanta in your downline, came to KW as brand new agents, right?
Yep.
So look, you're always going to be a real estate agent first and make sure that your referrals are being treated the best. And even though somebody's in your downline, if they're a brand new agent, okay, or they don't communicate back with you well, who cares if they're in your downline? The bottom line is you're not going to put your reputation on the line to make a couple $100 potentially in profit share when without servicing your clients, right? That's the point.
Right. Like when I went to hire a buyer's agent and a showing agent, I didn't look at the roster of my downline.
Yeah.
I looked at the roster of the market center.
Yeah.
Right. And but I think that's a small point. I think ultimately what I realized is growing a profit share business is almost identical to growing a real estate sales business.
Yeah.
Right. You got to nothing matters if you don't have leads, first of all.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So you got to get leads, and I can walk you through kind of how that evolved in my mind. But I needed leads. I'll go ahead and tell you that now. So I came to KW. I was asked to be on the ALC pretty much right away. I think I've had eight, maybe 9 years on the ALC.
Yep.
And then I had a couple as I was leading it as a team leader. And I was always the growth chair. And this is back when no one really talked about profit share that much. I mean, you were really the only person talking about it.
Yeah.
And kind of sometimes our big moment of the year for ALC profit share or ALC growth was bringing you into the office.
Yeah. Which
Right.
is crazy, Billy, because we're the most profitable market at KW, Atlanta, right? And
Yeah.
if we're not talking about profit share in Atlanta, well, then imagine what's happening around the company, right?
Yeah. You're exactly right.
Totally.
So what ended up happening is we had an ALC or assistant team leader that left the role, and it took a little while to fill the spot. And so I was never named officially assistant team leader, but I was basically doing that job. So I was fielding all the incoming calls. I was getting all the internet leads. I was meeting people. I was having conversations, all that. And after a couple months, we hired an assistant team leader. So all of my the comfort that I was starting to build, the scripts that I was starting to get used to, and all that stuff, I was pretty good at it. I thought I was, but I didn't have any leads.
Yeah.
Right. And I needed to find a way to get leads. And
by the way, coming to KW too from Better Homes and Garden, where you were on the relocation teat, okay,
right.
You obviously had to go through all of this. I talk about dependent, independent, interdependent. Obviously, you were independent. You were a business-minded guy, but
That's
you were
right.
at a dependent brokerage. When you came to our interdependent company, now you found yourself, okay, I'm at KW. This is great, but now I got to take responsibility for generating my own leads, whether it be for real estate or for profit share. And that was probably a big transition for you, right?
Yeah, of course, because even a lot of the people that I was helping were sellers that were getting transferred out of the area.
Exactly.
Right. So, I mean, they're essentially not in your database anymore.
Right.
We're in a different section of the database. I actually want to go back to one other thing, because I think it was the first time, I can't remember if it was a mega camp or a family reunion, but it wasn't the one that I visited as from the other company.
Yeah.
But I went to a profit share class, and I didn't really know much about profit share. It was kind of on my radar because of getting the opportunity to be involved with my wife, but I didn't really know what was going on. And it turns out we sat in the same class. I think I've told you this before. Yeah. And it was a typical class. Tell them you love Keller Williams. Will you take a call from the team leader? And then at the end of the class, you stood up, and this is Aaron 1.0, and told the class what you really think about how to find how to grow profit share and all that stuff. And I was like, whoa, I think I might need to meet this guy.
Yeah. Right.
And I happen to be sitting right behind you. I tapped you on the shoulder after the session. I see that you're from Decatur, so I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. And I think that was the start of me coming to all your classes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And every time I would go there, I'd sit there, sometimes alone, sometimes I'd bring somebody, and I was learning the value proposition of Keller Williams.
Yeah.
Right. And, sometimes you kind of have to hunt for it a little bit. At least you did back then.
Yeah.
And I knew that this was something I needed to learn more about. Right around that time, I was on the ALC, and we were one of the few ALCs in the country that got a chance to work with Mo. So Mo was our coach, or I don't know exactly what her
Did you
official
see
position
Mo
was.
yesterday, by the way, on the virtual summit? Did you see Mo's segment? I mean, did that not get you? I think because people don't know that you're also on the profit share task force with us. But to hear Mo say things that you and I are so passionate about, right? Like, I hope that gave you some energy and validated what we have been fighting for so long. When you hear someone like Mo talk about these things, and I just got so fired up, literally. And I think people need to understand that, like, even though we're this amazing, innovative company, right? One thing that we don't really do very well is really share our story with our own people, really talk about profit share intentionally. And that's why I'm so excited about, what the McKissicks had done and seeing Mo on there. I feel like there's a big movement happening right now that we are a part of, to kind of re-galvanize people around profit share. Because, I mean, the fact is, look, back in the day when you or I were with KW, I mean, look, growth was inevitable for KW, right? Like we were We were the highest evolution of the industry. We still are, but the fact is there's a lot of new flashy objects, and we have to lean in more to profit share right now because, we're in the third generation of KW, Billy. There are a lot of people in our company, including leadership, that don't know what it's like to be the emerging company. They don't know what it's like, to really talk about profit share at a high level. So sorry for
Like I remember, being a mega camper family reunion or something, and Gary would say from the stage, "Hey, we're going to double this company in the next 5 years."
Yep.
Right. And so that meant to me, okay, so we're going to bring $150,000 agents to this company.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, so what do all these people have in common?
Right.
They all, well, number one, they're not going to the least expensive company out there. They've made their choice based on value rather than price.
Yep.
Right. And they're all going to name a sponsor. Right.
Exactly.
And I thought to myself, hey, 5 years from now, I can either be the one that got intentional these past 5 years and got my fair share or unfair share of those opportunities, or I can sit here 5 years from now and say, I should have spent more time on that.
Yeah.
Right. So Mo was coaching our ALC, and I remember we were sitting at the big conference table, and we had her phone or whatever in the center of the table. And what she had done, she had printed off all of the profit share reports for all of our ALC members. Right.
I love
and
that.
She went around the table and she says, Barry, you have 0 people in your downline. You are a family cheater. Right.
I love it.
And Steve, you have 1 person in your downline. That's not okay. You're a family cheater. Right. At the time, I had 2 people in my downline.
Yeah.
And there was only 1 person that had a substantial downline. And she basically called us all family cheaters.
Yeah.
And that pissed me off. And from that moment forward, I think that happened right around the time I had an opening to start getting some leads from the office and stuff, and learning what to say and how to say it. And I said, that's not gonna be my story. And for a number of years, I would email Mo at the end of the year saying, hey, I'm not a family cheater. I got 50 people in my downline now.
Yeah.
Next year, hey, I'm not a family cheater. I got 85 people in my downline.
I love it.
So that was really inspiring for me. And so one of the first things that I did to find opportunities was I went to Craigslist. And this is back when the major cities were charging, but the secondary cities and tertiary cities, they were not charging for leads. So you can't post in Houston, but you could post in Galveston, right? Or you can't post in New York City, but you could post in Albany, right?
Exactly. I love Craigslist.
So I had a VA at the time, still do, and she obviously was helping me with my sales business, but she started helping me with recruiting as well. So we looked up, there was 89 cities that I could post for free.
Yep.
And they had a Keller Williams Market Center within 30 miles. So we posted ads for free in every one of those cities every single day.
Yep.
For a long time. Right. And what I ended up, now I was fishing from way down the line. Yeah. Right. These are people that are thinking about a career in real estate. Right. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to have to happen between thinking about getting into real estate and actually getting to a closing table.
Yep.
Especially one at KW. Right. And so I learned a lot from those phone calls. Right. I learned, I knew kind of what to say because we had spoken a lot.
Yeah.
But I was talking too much to the wrong people. Right. And they just, very few of them ultimately even got into real estate.
Yep.
Right. However, if you put in the time and you build the numbers, you're going to have a lot of leads. So what I really thought was cool is now I started meeting all the leaders of Keller Williams. Right. I probably had 75, 80 relationships with team leaders all over the country. Right. And sometimes OPs, sometimes general managers, whatever it was. I was offered a couple of team leader roles. People are like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
All this kind of stuff. And I was able to build a lot of really cool relationships, and I could see these people when I was going to Mega Camp and that kind of stuff. What ended up happening is Craigslist started charging.
Yeah.
But they started charging for the secondary cities first. So I was posting in
Joplin. Yeah. Abilene, Texas.
Lafayette, Indiana, like these places I've never even heard of.
I remember. Yeah. Now, the good thing, though, what people need to understand about that too, just so they understand, like, first of all, when it's free, it's free. Okay.
Yeah.
So it takes you a second to post an ad, right? So, like, why not do it?
Well,
But the other side
it
of
was taking me 0 seconds because
right.
I had help.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but the other side of it is, even though these are smaller cities, I mean, typically there's only 4 or 5 job ads in the real estate section, right?
Right.
On Craigslist. So if I'm posting in Atlanta in the real estate jobs, right, my ad is going to be on the second page by the end of the day, right?
By the end of
in
the
a
hour,
week,
probably.
in a week, it ain't getting any traction,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes these smaller cities, even though they're smaller, you can get better exposure and squeeze as much as you can out of a job ad because it's going to be on the first page for probably for the 30 days. Now, I'm curious,
100%.
Billy, you talked about how you were having all these conversations and you realized, look, I can't be having all these conversations. So what did you do to protect your time? Obviously, you have a VA, which is helping with leverage and all that. But what kind of systems or steps did you take to make sure that, hey, I'm only talking to the top 20% of these people while I'm still servicing these leads? Because I think people need to understand that when you do internet recruiting, right, you're representing Keller Williams, okay? And so you better respond quickly and you better respond with integrity. And so if you can't do either one of those things, stop running job ads because you're making us all look bad. But so what did you do to make sure that, hey, I'm servicing these leads and representing Keller Williams at a high level, but I'm also protecting my time and dealing with the best leads?
So I had a website at the time.
Yeah.
And it asked that, what's that?
You built your own website, yeah?
No. One of way back when, I forget who it was selling websites or whatever.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it was like, I think I paid like $200 one time and like $50 a year or something. It was not much. So what I ended up doing, it had, unlicensed or thinking about it in school licensed. So everyone in school and licensed got a call right away.
Gotcha.
Right. After a while, when I realized I needed to, kind of simplify the how I was handling leads, I think what I did was they would inquire. I would send them back a message that says, here's a 5-minute video about Keller Williams. Please watch this and email me back your favorite part.
The old do one more thing tactic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that usually eliminates at least half of those people, right?
That's right. Because half the time they don't, they're just clicking on the button. They don't know what's going to happen afterwards. So that weeded out the people that were thinking about it that weren't serious.
Yeah.
So after a while, and meanwhile, I was still growing a team, right? Sure, so I was, 100% in sales as well. What ended up happening is, quite honestly, I enjoyed having those conversations more. Lead generating for recruiting, I was enjoying those conversations more than I was trying to court a buyer or seller.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that kind of became more and more obvious as time went on.
Sure.
So Craigslist started charging. I quit that. Right around that time, I had a relationship with an OP in Virginia, and she lost her team leader. And she says, will you call these lists for me? And I said, absolutely. So about almost a year went by.
Her licensing list, or her people that are sitting for the license exam, right?
So this particular list would have about 400 people a month that failed their test.
Oh, okay.
And 400 people, give or take, that passed their test.
Interesting.
Right. And so I was building those relationships and putting some people in my downline from Virginia. I was still working on the sales side. I've done a bunch of things.
Billy, what do those calls look like? What do those calls sound like? Okay. When you call somebody on a list, obviously it's a lot different than receiving a internet lead, right?
Yeah.
So tell me how would you contact them? What would that initial conversation kind of look like? And give me an example for someone who's passed their license and somebody who hasn't passed their license. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Sometimes obviously the ones that failed are better leads, right? Because the list only came out once a month.
Interesting.
And so if I got the list on, let's say, the first or second of the month, some of the list was passers that passed almost a month ago. So there's a good chance that they've already selected a brokerage.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
So sometimes the failure list was better. But the general question was, hey, how congratulations on passing your test, right? I know it's a lot of hard work. How's it going for you?
Yeah.
Right. I never gave myself like a title or anything like that. But it was essentially just a needs analysis, right? I pretty much knew for sure they got into the business because they wanted a better quality of life, which manifests itself, as we know, in two major ways: more control over time and more control over money.
Yeah.
So I had that as a lens to, begin our conversation. And essentially what the role that I played was kind of just a consultant, right? Hey, here's a couple of things that you should be thinking about. Here's some questions you should be asking. Tell me a little bit about why you chose real estate. What's important to you about the brokerage you choose. We're here a year from now, and we're celebrating over a bottle of champagne. The fact that you had an incredible year. What are you expecting to happen, or what are you hoping to happen?
That's
right.
Great.
And you can quickly tell somebody who is one level thinker versus somebody else. Like I once had somebody that asked me what the monthly fee was, and when I answered the question, he said, well, what is the late fee if you don't pay that on time? And I said,
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Red flag. Yeah. Yeah.
This is not a good candidate here, right?
Yeah. And I want to make a point, Billy, just real fast. I think I want to just highlight the moment we're in, because you can speak to this, right? Like back when we were doing this, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, right? One of the lines that I lived by was a Gary Keller line, which was, hey, interdependence, which is KW, right, was only a decision independent agents can make. So when I was talking to people, right, the way that I qualified them initially was, okay, where do you envision the majority of your leads coming from? Have you thought about how you're going to fund your real estate business, right? Now, these questions were also a product of my lead flow. I had a lot of leads, so I could ask those questions, right? So I want people to really understand. I said this yesterday on the virtual summit. I think right now is the best time in the history of Keller Williams to go after new agents. First of all, the new agent talent pool's never been better. And I don't know how active you are right now with new agent recruiting, but I don't know if you can agree with that the post-pandemic, there's a lot of amazing talent coming into real estate. I think would agree with that. Yeah.
Of course. I've been speaking to people that own insurance companies with 75 employees, and people that have started businesses all over the country. There's some super talented people out there right now.
Absolutely. I mean, teachers, flight attendants, these people freaking realize how much they hated their careers during the pandemic, or how little they were getting paid to deal with what they were dealing with. But the other side of it, Billy, is that, as you know, Teamridge, right? And the explosion of teams since we started doing this. I mean, a new agent doesn't have to generate their own business right off the bat anymore. And there's reason a lot of the people that I sponsored at KW 10, 15 years ago are not at KW right now, or they're out of the business, is that they were never ready to be independent in the first place. And so when they came to KW, they might have told us told me on the phone and told the team leader they wanted to be a business owner. But when the rubber hit the road, right, they didn't lead generate.
I don't know if they even had that vocabulary at that time, for the most part. Right.
Totally agree.
They just wanted to be an agent.
Absolutely.
Well, to tell you the truth, they wanted to cash the checks that agents cash.
Exactly. But my point is now, right, they can go onto a team, or hopefully a market center is leaning into Teamridge and has some opportunities for newer dependent agents. But what people need to understand is not only is the talent better, not only do they have more opportunities to work business immediately and start generating profit share immediately. My guess is they're going to have a better chance of surviving this industry and this shift if they go immediately into production. So I just want to make sure that people understand right now is the best time to do it. A new agent that survives this shift, when this shift comes back, they're going to crush it, right?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I think that it kind of goes back to our analogy at the beginning, which is the sponsor gets them to the front door, and then they walk through the door and they can participate in ALC committees. They can join a team. They can get into productivity coaching. They can, I've had an agent came to me that was in the business for a couple of months and didn't really like it, to be honest. And she asked me how to a staff position came available, and she came into my office. She says, "I want that job. How do I get it?"
Yep.
And I walked her through exactly how to get it, and she's had it for, I don't know, 2 years or something, right?
That's
So
right.
it's there are so many opportunities,
Yeah.
and what I generally find is the people who aren't participating, who don't show up to class, who don't come to Red Day, who don't do all the kind of cultural activities, they when the bill comes for KW, if you will, it's expensive,
Yeah.
right? Because they're not taking advantage of anything, right?
Yeah.
And so
Value, right. Yeah.
that's why I always am trying to say, hey, want to come with me to this class? Hey, I got this guy speaking in Virginia. You want to go see him? Right? I'm always trying to expose people to a new book I've read, or something I learned in Bold, or all the concepts I learned in leadership, because thank God somebody showed that stuff to me.
Exactly.
Right.
So go back to Virginia. Go back to Virginia. So you were calling on those lists, right? You were having success and building your downline, calling these lists in Virginia. Which, by the way, how awesome is that they asked you, right? Because you weren't paying for the list, I assume.
No,
right?
they were.
In some states you do have to pay for them, right?
Well, they were paying for it.
Well, no, I get that. I'm saying the fact that you had earned through the relationships, right, and sending them leads, you earned that opportunity to work their lists, right? So you started
100%.
having success with that, and I'll take off from there. Where did it go from there?
So eventually, as you would imagine, they hired a team leader, and that stopped, right? So around that time, I started calling the pastors list, and I bought the pastors list for this website. Only sold Georgia and Illinois at the time. And so I ran Georgia for a little while. Then I ended up buying Illinois and handed that off to some of my recruits, and they ran that for a little while. Those lists, Illinois is gone. Georgia's not as good as it used to be. Back to the dialogue. It's basically just, hey, congratulations. What are you hoping to accomplish here? Let me share, some of the things that are the most important things to me, right? I mean, 99% of them talk about training, right? Everyone wants to know how the money works. Everyone wants to know what the technology is. And I think we win in all of those discussions. So for a while I was calling the Georgia list. I was, probably bringing in, I don't know, maybe about 50 or so people a year. Right now I looked up the numbers the other day. I've sponsored 370 people.
Amazing.
And I currently have 241 in my whole tree. Half of it, or over 100 in the first level, over 100 in the second level, and I got 4 people in the fourth level. So I've never received a nickel from levels 5, 6, or 7. So
interesting.
I'm excited to get there.
Well, Billy, I want to take a moment to dive into that just a little bit, because I think people need to understand that, first of all, profit share is the long game. Okay, there's a reason only a handful of us, are doing this, especially when it comes to new agents for such a long period of time, is that the quality is in the quantity, right? And
that's right.
It takes time, right? And it's funny because as much as I love to be diversified all around KW, and I think people need to understand there's a value to that, right? There's no such thing as a national real estate market, right? Markets go up, markets go down, natural disasters happen. I mean, look, if your whole downline was in Maui, okay, and we love our Maui agents. I've been there. I'm just saying, I'm using it as an example. That market is affected for a long period of time, right?
Exactly.
Diversified, right? That's huge. But you and I both know, being in Atlanta, we're spoiled. Okay,
we are.
We not only be the most profitable markets at KW, right? We also get this FMLS money, right, as well. These market centers are crushing it, right? Even in a shift. So I always, I told you today, I said, I got 1,400 people in my downline, right? You got 240. But you and I made about the same amount of money this month, because a lot of your downlines in Atlanta, which is extremely profitable. And now, by the way, did that number include you and your wife, or was that just you?
No, that's just me.
Oh, okay. So you guys as a husband and wife team actually made more than me this month, which gets me really depressed. But anyway,
well, I made more than you this month alone.
Oh, thank you for hiring.
But my wife and I together, made
My
more than
point
me.
is that I look at it like long-term and short-term investments. Yes, Atlanta
Yeah,
is
of
the
course.
most profitable market, but you know what? California, we're going to turn it around. And
That's
I got
right.
a lot of people in California. And as we turn that around, the people that I have in my downline are going to be trailblazers and growth people for those offices for years to come.
Exactly, because you're not going to get profit share without company dollar, right? And so and you're not going to get company dollar without people selling stuff, right? So they're going to have to get out there. So I mean, I'm not I got my profit share statement this month had somebody that sold like a $400,000 house, and I literally got 0 cents. Because the market center was just essentially not profitable. So
but so how does that tie into your mindset, Billy? Right, like you've been doing this for a long time.
That's why I have to tune into your classes sometimes. That's why I have to go to profit share classes at Family Reunion and whatnot. That's why I have to tune into your Facebook group. Like,
I believe in the long game, right?
Yes, I believe in the long game, but really the important thing is I have the ability to believe in the long game.
Sure.
Right. And I think that's what has kind of been the theme of a lot of your interviews, is that sometimes a lot of the real estate agents, they can't see past their next closing.
Exactly.
Right. And because of that, a lot of the things that we all know are best practices, right? Setting up a database, having a 36 touch, having client events, all this stuff. If you're worried about your next check, you're unwilling to spend the time to develop all that stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So I've developed all that stuff for profit share. I've developed it all for my team. And I was able to do so because I had enough closings coming in to where I wasn't all that worried. Right. So ultimately, after a number of years of recruiting, I had still been on the ALC growth chair. I'd started to get a little reputation for profit share. I was getting bigger checks than most people, and ultimately was asked to be the team leader. So we had an opening in team leader, and Andy Peters in Atlanta asked me to be the team leader, and I stepped into that. That was a fun experience. I kind of came in towards the end of the growth initiative, and no pipeline, right? It was kind of a tough split with the previous guy, and I kind of jumped in and kind of put out the fires, if you will, right? And I had a lot of fun, and the cool part about that was I was literally being trained on all the models. I mean, I knew all the models, but I learned them in a different way. Right. I learned the consultative approach to helping somebody with their business planning, and goal forecasting, and really being able to get into the nitty gritty about somebody's business. And one thing that I say now quite a bit is that there's really only 2 problems that a real estate agent's ever going to have. Either you need more leads, or you don't have enough leads, or you have too many leads.
Exactly.
Right. And what I've found is probably right around that $5 million-ish or so volume, where if you have less than $5 million worth of sales, I can tell you right now, there's really only one thing we need to talk about.
Leads.
And that's the fact that you need more leads. And if you're closer to that 5 million, you probably need more seller leads. Once you get past that 5 million, all you care about is who's going to help me with all these things I got to deal with. Right. And that can be quite overwhelming. And therefore, somebody's not able or not willing to carve out the time for profit share. Right. And, those people get one level of profit share checks, and the rest of us get a different level of profit share checks. So, I was able to be the team leader for about 1.5 years. I think right before I became the team leader, again, I had become had a little reputation for being a profit share guy. My name was in the book a couple of times. Through a friend of a friend, I got an opportunity to connect with the OP of KW Israel. Got an opportunity to invest in that operation. Some small minority owner of the KW Israel region. That would have never come to me. One of the first things he said on the phone was, "Who are you? Why I'm on the phone with you?" Right.
Exactly.
And if I was like, "Well, I'm just an agent," and he's like, "Well, do you have any influence? Have you ever recruited anyone?" I was like, "Nah, I don't really go to classes." Like, he would have gotten off the phone with me. Right.
And I always tell people, Billy, that, look, the fastest way to create opportunities at KW is to build your profit share trade, right?
Yeah, I was in a class one time, a young professionals session at Family Union, I believe, and Chris Heller taught a class, and he said something that really caught my attention. He said the opportunities come to those that, number one, have the capital,
Yeah.
right, which is probably like 1%,
Yeah.
and it comes to people with influence.
Exactly.
And there's really only two ways that you evaluate influence, and that is the size of the person's downline,
Yep.
and their involvement with the ALC. That's what he said.
Exactly.
And so I committed to those two things, right?
Awesome.
Because I knew that if I just put my head down and did the work, things would come to me, right? And I had seen little bits of that, right? I was offered the team leader role. I was offered all these other roles when I was recruiting out of the, in the country and whatnot. So I was really learning the business from a different angle. And so when I stepped into productivity coaching, I had gone from kind of coaching the top 20% to coaching the bottom 20%, right?
Yeah.
And so I could really get, so I'd say I have a lot of skill in that. I can meet a brand new starving agent where they are, and I can meet a mega where they are, right? If you're trying to hire, you're trying to grow or whatever, I can talk to you, right?
And let me add something to that, Billy, real fast. I think people need, I always say this in my class, right? That if you're thinking like a stakeholder at KW, okay, the success of your market center that you're a stakeholder in, it's not just rooted in being in business with the top producing agents in your market. It's actually the success of this market center, of your market center you're a stakeholder in, is rooted in being in business with the most producing agents in your market center. So the truth is, if you can turn your non-cappers into half cappers and your half cappers into cappers, that is probably going to.
We would be having this conversation in Tahiti.
What's that?
We would be having this conversation in Tahiti.
Oh, no, 100%, 100%, Billy. But what I'm saying is you probably got a little bit more fulfillment. You probably get a lot more fulfillment as someone who thinks like a stakeholder, helping the lower 20% in many ways, right? I mean, add more company dollar because you understand how a market center really works. And what I want more people in KW to start realizing is that it takes a village, Billy, right? It takes a village to bring your lower 80% up, right? And so if we are thinking like stakeholders and we're buying into this, you should go into your office and try to help the new agents and the struggling agents be more successful, because that's how you create raving fans for this company you're a stakeholder in. And it's how you jack up your company dollar, which is where profit share comes from. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing that this business is not, there's some really important parts of this that are not all that intuitive.
Yeah.
Right. So a new agent comes on board, and because they don't have a lot of leads, people that aren't really good leads start to look like good leads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And it's the same thing with profit share, right? If you've got not that many prospects, then everyone's like, oh, well, I'm talking to this guy in St. Louis and he's like thinking about getting into real estate and I'm going to be a sponsor. That's probably never going to happen.
Exactly.
Right. But if you're in the office and you are helping agents really embrace the idea of being business owners and teach them leverage and teach them that you don't have to say yes to every appointment. Like when I'll get a call every once in a while, I'll have a 2:00 appointment and the person will message me, say, I gotta switch it up because I got a meeting.
Yeah.
And what that tells me is that guy needs a coach.
Exactly.
Right. That guy needs somebody to say, hey, I've got a commitment at 2:00, but I'm available at 3:00. And they will respect that. Right. And so that was one of the messages. That's kind of the message, kind of the God family business message that I've been preaching from the hilltop for a long time.
Absolutely.
Right. Because people don't realize they want to do it all. Right. And, the kind of the better agent you are, oftentimes the lousy you are on the back end.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And, and by the way, I've really embraced personality assessments.
Yep.
Right. And that helps me identify, hey, is this somebody that I need to talk numbers to? Hey, is this somebody that I need to tell a longer version of my story to?
I love that.
Is this somebody that needs to speak with somebody else, maybe that was experiencing their situation recently or something like that. So it really helps me understand what the talking points need to be. And I generally tend to be a what guy, right? Like, hey, we do this and we do that and we do this. And I really have to go back, and this is not easy for me to go to the why stuff.
Well, you're an analytical guy, right? You're an analytical guy, right?
I am.
Sometimes that stuff is, the airy-fairy stuff is not in your wheelhouse. But I think the blend of your analytical approach, dissecting the why, and I love how you find that balance, and it works great for you because it becomes across like a consultation, right?
Yeah.
Even though you might be talking about things that are not business conversations,
Well, the thing is they paid money to take a test or to go through a class, and they had a dream at that moment, right? And in many situations, they need to be reminded of their dream.
Totally.
Right. And I found a lot of joy in helping people process that.
Absolutely.
Right. I to be honest, I liked helping people go from, let's say, $25,000 of income to $125,000 in income, much more than I like coaching somebody from 10 million to 15 million.
Exactly.
Right.
People, by the way, think they know it all sometimes. And the newer agents, right, they're sponges, right? They want that. And that's
the right ones are sponges.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
But I would, when I was doing recruiting, man, I just loved when I got a recruit on the phone that jumped through all my hoops. That was like a single mother, 3 kids, working a restaurant job. Now, look, are the odds against them? 100%. Okay. But I just love pouring into somebody like that, because if I could be the guy that makes them think bigger and gets them to KW and sees how that changes their lives. There's a number of stories in our downline of people like that. But I love helping people think bigger and say, look, just because you're a single mother with 3 kids and you don't have a lot of money, let me just tell you, we got a lot of people at KW that came into this company in a similar situation. And if you're willing to hustle, right, if you're willing to put in the time, you can achieve anything. And that to me is what makes KW so amazing, and why why recruiting is sustainable for people like you and me, because we don't tether ourselves to the results. We enjoy the process of helping people, right?
That's right. Yeah. And in leadership opportunities, we have to create enough rapport with the person in front of us to open up about what they're experiencing. I mean, we've probably both had unlimited a number of people that have broken down in front of us, and that really means we're making an impact, right? Absolutely. And I've gotten so many messages from colleagues and people that I've recruited and et cetera that just say, hey, you made me think about this differently. And you gave me, when somebody comes and says, oh, I've just been a stay-at-home mom for the last 10 years or something like that. My response to them is, oh my God, okay, you're going to kill real estate.
Exactly.
Right. Because if you can be a stay-at-home mom and deal with all the challenges that includes,
totally,
right, you're going to kill this business. This thing's easy, right? Exactly. And I do think there's a couple of careers that tend to produce great agents.
Yeah.
And those are generally careers where they have to do the same thing over and over again.
Exactly.
Right. This is teachers. This is military people. Where there's routine, there's standards. Right. And these are the people that walk in the door and say, okay, where's everyone? Where are the people making money, having fun around here?
Exactly.
Right. And you go in and you do that stuff, and you're bound to have fun and make money. Right. One thing that I'm really kind of focused on right now is finding my Brent, if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
I'm looking for the recruiter. Right. And I'm even thinking about things like, recruiting recruiters. Right.
Well, here's what I would say to that. Okay. Now, look, we know we've changed the vesting to 7 years and 1 day. Okay. So Billy, and people will tell me all the time, oh my God, I'm about to recruit this guy that had all the success in multi-level marketing and this and that. And I've heard it 1,000 times. Okay. Yep. The bottom line is, if they don't believe in KW and they don't I mean, look, you can't, it's very hard to come into KW, recruit at a high level, right? Because it takes time to make money.
Sure.
By the way, commit to it for 7 years, all right, to be vested. If you've never sold a house, you've never read the MREA book, you've never experienced our culture, and I'll just tell you, 99.9% of the time, those people tell me they're bringing on an MLM person. Either A, they don't join, or they flame out in 3 to 6 months. Okay.
Yep.
So here's what I'm saying. The next Brent Mitchell might be already in your downline.
I believe they are, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And I'm looking at, I've created a lot of the spreadsheets, more or less, that I think Keller Williams should have.
Sure.
Right. And so I know what people in my tree are doing. Right.
Exactly.
I know how they're performing year over year. I know what kind of company dollar they are. I know how many units they've had. And I'm questioning them to see what their next level is.
Right.
Is their next level growing a team? Is their next level getting on the ALC? Is their next level, being a coach or being an ATL or something?
Yeah.
Because that's, that's really, that can make a huge difference.
Well, totally.
Right?
And I want to give you some advice. And we've talked about this many times. Look, I started it off by giving Brent leads. Okay. And Brent wasn't the only person in my downline getting leads from me. All right.
Right.
But there's a reason Brent Mitchell's the only person that gets leads from me now.
Oh,
right?
yeah. But,
I'm just saying he's the only guy that was willing to have the same amount of skin in the game as me. And just so a word of advice to anybody that's listening, look, the best way to get your people in your downline excited about recruiting and profit share is to eliminate the most challenging aspect of building their profit share, which is initiating the conversations, right? So the great thing about internet recruiting is, right, these people are coming to us, and when they fill out my career form, they say, hey, you're going to be contacted by a Keller Williams career consultant, right? They're not being contacted by Aaron Kaufman. And so I can pass that lead off to people in my downline who I've trained. The thing is this, Billy, I have enough data to know that if somebody in my downline doesn't have any skin in the game, they're not going to have success working internet leads, because it's the skin in the game that keeps you doing it, right? Like whether it's spending money or time or whatever it might be. So Brent, showed me that he had the same sense of urgency that I did. Okay.
Yeah.
Even though initially he wasn't paying me money or paying for the leads, he was working these leads with a sense of urgency, right? And when
he was working them like as if he was paying for them.
Oh, right. And just like if you have a real estate team, right?
I was just going to say that.
Yeah,
exactly. You don't give. This is kind of a typical conversation we have with new agents as well.
Sure.
Right. Every lead that has ever been procured costs somebody's time and money.
Exactly.
Nobody's giving that away for free. Not even Keller Williams.
Right.
So, and therefore you will earn things. The standards will be very clear. And when you hit the standards, opportunities open up for you.
Exactly.
And if you do not hit the standards, opportunities do not open up for you.
Well,
it's that simple.
Well, I want people to understand that at some point, Brent built his own website, but at some point I took Brent's contact form and embedded it on my website so that every lead directly went to Brent Mitchell. That's how much I believed in his conversion ability, his commitment. He got every lead I've ever generated after that point. And so,
when I became team leader and I was in charge of growing my market center and not all the other ones around town. I posted I can't remember exactly. I think I called about 10 or 20 agents that I had recruited.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't do this anymore. Would you like to help?
Yeah.
And I had 2 people in particular that really plugged in and still do plug in.
Awesome.
And they've each got, maybe 50 or so people in their downline.
And that's all it takes, man, right? A couple of those people, because look, time is the one thing we can't control, Billy. How can we predict? Like I got Brent Mitchell off of a free Craigslist ad 15 years ago. Okay. Like how do you think I could have ever imagined Brent Mitchell would become Brent Mitchell? Do you think I ever would have imagined Liz Landry, who now runs KW Talent, who I sponsored to KW off of a free Craigslist ad, would become Liz Landry. Josh Anderson out of Nashville, Tennessee, one of our top 100 agents, sponsored him off of an ad, 15 years ago. He's a top 100, 150 agent in KW. Now, look, we have already gone about an hour plus here, Billy. So you and I could talk for the next 3 hours, as we always do. But I want to finish on this note, okay?
Yeah.
One, I just want to make a point. You've earned over $300,000 in profit share, right? Is that just you, or is that
That's
you
me.
and your wife?
Yeah, so that's just me. My wife has earned, I think it was 2 or 3 months ago, across the 100,000 mark.
Okay, so you guys have earned over 400,000. So
Yeah.
one lesson there is, if guys, you're a husband and wife team, obviously stack your profit share, right? The exponential return on that is it makes it completely unfair for people like me. But the other thing I want you to just speak to, Billy, is you're on the profit share task force, right?
Yep.
And this is a tough time for us as as an industry, as a company. There's been a lot of new flashy objects. We've been building tech. It's been messy, right? But you and I both agree that I believe we're standing on the brink of what's going to be the golden age of profit share. And you have access to a lot of the conversations that I do. I want you to speak as somebody who's on the profit share task force. What are you most excited about when it comes to profit share moving forward as a company, knowing what you know, knowing what the challenges have been, knowing the moment we're in? What gets you excited about the future of KW profit share, as someone who sits on these profit share task force and is highly vested in KW profit share? Speak to that if you could for a second.
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I would say is as long as KW continues to be the best brokerage partner, profit share will grow exponentially.
Absolutely.
So one thing I find myself saying quite a bit now is it's very easy to join a real estate company, and it's even easier to leave one.
Yeah.
Right. And therefore, the broker's job every single day is to keep their people happy.
Yep.
Right. When I was team leader, they basically said, hey, if your people quit making money, there's only 2 reasons why they're going to leave. They quit making money and they stop feeling a part of the culture.
Exactly.
Right. And the second that happens, they're a flight risk. And so it's going to take a village to keep this thing going, right? It's going to have great owners, great leadership teams that are pouring into the new people, pouring into the top producers, that are running programs like Team Ridge, that are teaching the tech. So the company itself obviously has to continue to be on the cutting edge of what's happening in real estate, but it's still the best business you can have. Exactly. I mean, a solo agent, literally, I mean, I ran my business at probably 85% profit, right?
Yep.
I mean, once I brought on a buyer's agent, it was a little less, but that's unheard of, right? Exactly. If you go open a restaurant or a regular business, you're looking at 8-10% max.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no business that you can, get into for $1,000 and it costs you maybe $2,000 a year to be in it, that you have this potential upside. So I think profit share is going to come from continuing to develop and pour into the best agents or a lot of agents.
Yep.
And, it's I think that as you mentioned, Keller Williams has, we could probably do some pruning around some of these market centers that are not running the model or don't have great teams or whatever it is running it. I mean, literally, some of these market centers should probably be closed down and merged, right? Because if you're not making any profit, I mean, I have a capper in my downline that's at a market center that's not profitable.
Exactly.
If she was at a market center that was profitable, I would have made $2,000.
Exactly.
Right.
But you and I both know that from a top-down standpoint, and for people that have been so passionate about profit share and have been so, in many ways, frustrated with the lack of focus on profit share in our company, I hope you feel what I feel, right? Which is that there seems to be a much more intentional awareness around profit share when it comes to, I love Mark King. Mark King is a profit share purist. We are having more conversations on the task force, right? Where we're trying to create more, trying to gamify profit share, jack up the reports, right? We want to make it, we're working on the playbooks, right? I feel like there's a big shift right now that's happening that a lot of people maybe aren't seeing yet, that aren't exposed to some of the stuff that we are. But the fact that I'm partnered with KW right now, right?
Yeah.
Knowing me for as long as you've known me, that should get people excited about the future of KW Profit Share, because the fact that they're partnering with me should be a sign that they're really getting serious about leaning into profit share, right?
And they're evolving.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They need to, some messages have to come from the agent base
Exactly.
rather from the leadership.
Yep.
I think ultimately, even if we snapped a finger and all of the changes we want to make occurred, there's still going to be people that don't make it a priority to show up to a profit share class. Absolutely. I mean, man, if I had a dollar for every time I taught a profit share class in the Market Center over the last 13 years, and I had less than 5 people there, it's crazy.
Exactly.
And you know what? I think we've evolved too. Like that used to piss me off so bad.
Yeah.
And it used to piss me off because it's been such a big impact on me.
Exactly.
Right. And I have a great story, and my life has literally been changed in so many ways because I've been affiliated with Keller Williams. So I want that for everybody, but I can't want it more than they want it. Right. If they're going to say that a home inspection is more important than a profit share class, then that's their prerogative.
Absolutely.
And you know what? In 5 years, they will have an empty downline, and I will have all the people that they could have sponsored.
Exactly.
Right.
But chalking it up to the 80-20 rule as if we don't have any say in how much we grow this, right, is where I feel like we've transitioned, meaning we can sit here and just say, hey, look, we can teach classes, nobody's going to show up. Or we can say, we can just change the culture around profit sharing KW, teach, train on it better, talk about it more, celebrate it more, show more gratitude to referral associates, protect the integrity of the sponsorship system. And I
think we're making
making improvement, right? We're making progress.
Yeah. And there's a number of things that Keller Williams is up to right now that's really helping with that. Like all the community groups that we're creating.
Yep.
Right. Like if I'm speaking to a veteran and I say, hey, did you see the fact that we're one of America's top companies for veterans? We even have a veteran or a military, community.
Yep.
Right. These are things that we're creating all these touch points where people can, from a lot of different places, can be attracted to what we offer.
And what does Mo say, Billy, right? When she says, if you want to build a big church, build a bunch of small churches, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's why community is such a big part of my class. Now, look, you and I, we might have to do a part 2 on this, Billy, because, we can literally, this is all we talk about.
Yeah.
But look, I can't thank you enough for your time. If somebody once has a referral for Roswell, Georgia, or Atlanta,
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yep.
Or they just want to pick your brain around profit share and what you're doing. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
They can reach me at BillLinkwald@kw.com. I can post my phone number is 678-361-6083. I can post that in the group too.
Great.
I think at the end of the day, people just need to realize that this is if you treat it like a business, it doesn't have to be your full-time business. But if you're going to give it time, then you're going to have the results. Exactly. And if you don't give it time, nothing's going to happen. And it's really no different than exposing somebody to an opportunity, right? Absolutely. We're not selling Keller Williams.
Exactly.
We are exposing people to what Keller Williams can do for you. And you can engage or choose not to engage. Totally. And it's also timing, right? I mean, I'm chatting with somebody right now that I've been courting for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
It just hasn't been the right time. Yeah. But now she's a big producer and now she's considering it. Right. Awesome. So you just gotta keep at it. Right. And when you're exposing somebody to a wonderful company, then it's genuine and it doesn't have to be a sale. And, but you got to sell enough houses to have money in the bank so that you can afford to spend time on it.
One, you got to think and act like a stakeholder. You got to be culture driven. You got to come from contribution. You got to seek out knowledge and referrals. You got to adopt our tech and help evolve it. And, when you do all of that stuff, not only does it impact your life and your family and your business, it compels you to want to share it with other people. All right, Billy, Thanks again, brother. Great job today.
Yeah.
We will catch up soon, and I will be posting the YouTube link for you shortly. So thanks again, brother.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, sir.
All right.
Appreciate all you're doing.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.